Hi there. I'm really excited that you are here and I want to welcome you. So, by way of introduction, my name is Aldreama Harper. I am a podcast launch strategist as well as an online systems specialist. And so, I work with female entrepreneurs who are looking to navigate the complexities and overwhelm of launching, maintaining, and growing a podcast. And as an online systems specialist, I help my clients to streamline their digital operations, implement efficient workflows, and leverage tools to enhance productivity, scalability for their online businesses. I use scripture and I apply biblical principles as a foundation for my life as well as my business. And so you're going to hear that throughout all of my trainings. And so if that's something that offends you, this may not be right for you. So today we're going to be talking about how to podcast like a pro. 5 steps to start and streamline your show. So did you know that most podcasts don't make it past the 3rd episode? Most podcasts. So like 90% of podcasters quit after the 1st episode. And so if that's you and you started and stopped, raise your hand right now. I'm raising my hand because that I'm included in that. And so my first podcast that I launched, I actually made it past 3 episodes. And so I was inconsistent. I did not have a strategy. I loved podcasting. This was back in 2013 when I launched my first podcast. It only has 12 episodes because some of the things that I'm sharing with you today were not a part of my strategy. And so that's what you're going to get as I share some of the things with you today. So the top 10% of podcasters are thriving, on the other hand, with engaged listeners, monetization opportunities, and even business growth. And so I share that with you because 90% is a very significant percentage of people that quit after a few episodes. Now, that stat that I gave you was since the last time I looked at some of the statistics. There are a lot of podcasters out there. But the thing is, if you don't have some type of strategy, and if you don't have like the 5 things that I'm going to share with you today, if you don't have those things in place as a part of your strategy, then you're going to be a part of the 90% of podcasters like I was back in 2013. So let's talk about what the difference is, because the difference is not talent, it's not even technology. It's about having the right systems, the right strategies, and the right mindset. Okay. And when I first started my podcast, I really had no clue what I was doing other than I knew that I wanted a podcast. I knew that it was something that I was interested in. I knew that I had a topic that I wanted to talk about, right? But I didn't really have a clue as to how to move forward. So I was inconsistent. I didn't have the right strategy. And this resulted in an unorganized and overwhelming state for me. Now, the thing about it is my audio quality was decent, and we'll talk about that, shortly. But I thought that if I built it, they would come. That is no longer the case. I don't know if you've ever heard that quote. Is from a movie with Kevin Costner some years ago. But here's the thing, I didn't give up. And so now my current podcast, which I launched a couple of years ago, which is called the Organizedpreneurs Pod Launch Pad, is my 3rd endeavor. And it's one that I'm very, very proud of. I have systems in place. I have processes. I have ways that help me stay consistent, tools to help me stay streamlined with my workflow, and strategies to connect with my audience. And so today, that's what we're going to be talking about, as I'm going to share with you some of those lessons so you don't have to make the same mistakes. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into those 5 steps. Okay, so number 1, this is step 1. Define your podcast mission and niche. This is the first step and the most important step. This is where it all begins. Because without a clear mission, you're going to feel scattered, like I did. Your audience won't even know why they should listen, if you have an audience, right? And so when I started my first podcast back in 2013, I wanted to talk about organization. Okay, that has always been my passion. I had a professional organizing business that I started back in 2003, and I wanted to kind of move toward launching a podcast so I can talk about it. But I didn't know, that was too broad. I hadn't defined my niche. I had to dig a little bit deeper and ask myself the right questions. And so those questions are, who specifically am I talking to? I didn't know who I was talking to. I just knew that I wanted to talk to people looking to get organized. Now, if that's not broad, I don't know what to tell you. But that was, the number one question. Who specifically did I want to talk to? What were their challenges, right? What unique solutions could I provide? And I even had to dig deeper, right? And so as I began to dig a little bit deeper, I realized that I wanted to talk to solopreneurs to help them organize their lives and their businesses. And so that is how Organizepreneur Pod Launch Pad came about. Now, in all transparency, it wasn't always named that. But 2 years ago, when I launched, I became a little bit more focused. My content became focused. My audience started to grow because they felt like I was speaking directly to them. And so the 3 steps to get focused: by defining your podcast mission and niche, you want to make sure that you ask yourself, what is the purpose of my podcast? What is the purpose of my podcast? And what value will it bring? And why does it even matter? Like, I had to ask myself, why does it even matter that solopreneurs need to be organized? Well, because they can be all over the place. I was one of those people. Even though I had an organizing business, there were things that I needed to put in place. And so as a result of me going through those things, I knew once I did that, that I could tell others how to do that as well. And so that was the value that I brought and that I continue to bring. And that's why it matters, because I understand the challenges of being a solopreneur and trying to do everything yourself. You can still be a solopreneur and put systems and processes and things like that in place, but I wasn't speaking to those if I wasn't specific, right? So that's the value that you have to figure out. What value will you bring and why does it matter? Okay, so define your mission, identify your niche, get specific about who you are helping and what problem you're solving for them. Your audience doesn't care about anything else. Okay. And then the third thing is create a tagline. For example, if you're helping busy moms, it could be a tagline that communicates the purpose of your podcast. And maybe it could be, helping busy moms reclaim their energy through simple fitness routine. I wanted to give an example of a different audience that you're trying to reach. And so this is how you define your podcast niche and mission. And this is the most important step. Define your mission, identify your niche, and create a tagline. And so when we think about the ministry of Jesus, he had a specific mission during his ministry. And so the scripture that comes to mind is in Luke 19:10, because his focus wasn't scattered. It was very clear and intentional and purposeful. And so your podcast mission should be the same. So that's step one. Step two, organize your workflow. I can't tell you how important this is, because there are a lot of moving parts when it comes to launching your podcast, and even in your business. There are a lot of moving parts. And so for those of you that may be thinking, well, I want to launch a podcast, but I don't want this to be just another thing that I have to do. Well, when you organize your workflow and you put the proper systems and processes in place, then you won't have to be all over the place. And it won't be just another thing that you have to do. Look at it as my podcast is an extension of my business, and it is something that I get to do. Okay. You'll be more excited about it, and it won't be overwhelming. Okay. So when I first started my journey into podcasting, I kept everything in my head, my ideas, my contact information, deadlines, all of those things. And I was constantly scrambling. When I first launched my professional organizing business, I was all over the place. I was teaching people how to get organized. However, my back office systems and processes were in my head. And so I was constantly scrambling. I was constantly rethinking things, which was taking up more bandwidth in my brain. Okay. And so I don't want you to have to do that. So there are tools that you can use, free tools that you can use to keep things organized, to have a good workflow and create a good workflow. You can use Notion, which is free, or you can use Google Drive. You can create spreadsheets. You can create documents. It's going to help you keep things organized. You can use Google Calendar, right, to stay on top of your episodes and stay on top of your guest outreach. In other words, it is a centralized place where all things, all of your assets can be organized. I no longer am stressing about my episodes because they're all planned out. I am already 30 days out. And so I'm not stressing about the next episode because it's already there. It's already scheduled and ready to go. And so how you can use Notion or even Google Docs or, spreadsheets and calendars and things like that. You can set up a calendar, a content calendar. Or in Notion, you can create a board to track your episodes from idea to publication. And so create columns: ideas, progress, recorded, edited, published. Those 5 columns. And you can do this in Google, or you can do this in Notion. And so you can manage your guests there. You can build a database for your guests, right? You can have the topics, how you're going to follow up, and, as well as all of the information about your guests that you need to keep track of. You're going to have links for your notes, your scripts, your promotional graphics. All of those things can directly link to an image or, a video, a post. all things centralized in one place. And don't forget to plan out your episodes in advance, like I said, to always stay ahead. And so the scripture that I want to give you is Proverbs 16 and 3, where it says, commit to the Lord whatever you do, and he will establish your plans. And so organizing your podcast workflow is an act of stewardship. When you're creating systems that keep you organized, it's an act of stewardship. And it shows that you honor God with your time and your energy. And that way you open up yourself to greater creativity and consistency, right? So that is number 2. So we got 3 more to go. Okay, let's talk about recording, because you can have the best content, but if your audio quality is poor, listeners will tune out. Period. They will tune out. Like if you are recording interviews, with a guest, and they can have an amazing story to share, but if the audio is full of glitches and it's just not going to reflect the professionalism that you want. And so I use Riverside, and it has literally transformed the way I record, the way I edit, the way I produce. If I'm inviting a guest, I can do that with a simple link, and they can just jump in the virtual studio with me. I can edit everything right on the same platforms. Okay. And also use Magic Editor to trim. I mean, there is a plethora of resources, and they always have new things that they are doing on the platform all the time. And so you can keep up with their YouTube channel and things like that. Okay. So number 4, consistency is key. Consistency is key. I can't emphasize this enough, because your audience needs to know that they can count on you. When I first started, I struggled with consistency, right? Because I didn't have a strategy. I didn't have a plan. I would record one week and then skip the next week and try to catch up. And that is just not sustainable. And so when you start batching your episodes, outlining, recording, and editing, and things like that, you will be able to stay consistent. Okay. And that's why when I share with you, to use Notion and use other types of tools and resources that can help you, you won't be scrambling and stressed because of the fear that something is falling through the cracks. And again, you will be able to stay on top of your schedules. And so that's what I do. So let me give you a few things, a few ways that you can do that. So commit to a realistic publishing schedule. That could be weekly, it could be bi-weekly, it could even be monthly. So there are 2 questions that I get: how often and how long should the podcast episode be? And my answer to that is always, it depends. It depends on your audience. It depends on you being able to commit to a realistic publishing schedule. So if bi-weekly or if weekly is not realistic for you, then at least do bi-weekly, because you want to make sure that you show up for your audience. They are looking for you. They are waiting for your next episode so that they can engage. Okay, so commit to a realistic publishing schedule. Number 2, batch things like outlining, recording, editing, all of that to save time. So batching things like outlining and, create scripts on one day, recording on another day, editing on another day. If you choose to do that, do it that way. But the point is batching tasks. Any type of repetitive tasks that you in which you are going to have any type of repetitive task, you're going to need tools like Zapier or Pabbly Connect. I use Pabbly Connect. And Make is another one that I'm trying out right now. I think it's make.com. So I'm creating some tasks that I want to automate, and I'm super excited about that. I can't show you right now because we're still working through that. But my point is, this is how you can stay consistent with a system, committing to a realistic publishing schedule, batching, and automating repetitive tasks. Okay. So number 5, so that was number 4. Okay. So number 5, promote like a pro. The best podcast in the world will not grow if nobody knows about it. It's one of the biggest mistakes that I see podcasters make when they treat promotion as an afterthought. I did the same thing because I didn't know how. And I didn't want to sound salesy, didn't know how to put things on social media. And I didn't plan it. I didn't plan it as a part of my workflow, which is what I'm sharing with you now. Okay, so now I plan my promotion strategy because it's a part of my workflow. I create audiograms, I repurpose other content into posts and things like that. And you can do that also. You can create shareable content, quote, graphics. Not only that, you can collaborate with other podcasters or guest experts to expand your reach. Okay. And lastly, you can optimize your titles and your descriptions with keywords and for search engine optimization. And there are tools that can help you with that. There's AI tools that can help you with that. Okay. And so the scripture that I want to use is Proverbs 11:25. And it says, a generous person will prosper. Whoever refreshes others will be refreshed. When you share your podcast, you collaborate with others, you're not just promoting yourself. You are blessing others with your content. And even as I read that, it just continues to remind me of how that works. Sharing your podcast with others, sharing your message with others who need to hear your message or see your content, collaborating with others. It's really not about promoting yourself. It really is about blessing others that's waiting to hear you. So let me just recap those 5 steps. Number 1, define your mission and your niche. Number 2, organize your workflow. Number 3, record like a pro. Number 4, stay consistent with a system. Number 5, promote effectively to grow your audience. I really hope that you are able to understand that it's important to change your mindset about podcasting. It's not about, just a technical skill that you have to learn. That's part of it. Podcasting is a calling. It's a calling to share your unique voice and message. And so the final scripture before I close out that I want to share with you, Habakkuk 2, verse 2 and 3. It says, write the vision and make it plain on tablets, that he may run who reads it. For the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it will speak and it will not lie. Your podcast is a vision. And the tools, the systems, and the strategies we've discussed will help you bring your vision to life. And so I hope that this training has been helpful to you. I hope that it has blessed you and that you will implement the things that I have shared with you in this training so that you can get your message out there. There's people waiting on you. I know people are saying podcasting is saturated, but no one has your voice, no one has your experience, and no one has what you can bring, your unique experience to the table. No one has that. You don't have mine, I don't have yours, even if we're talking about the same thing. And so consider your podcast as a part of your vision. And if you need any kind of help, if I can assist you, consider jumping on a call with me. The link will be provided below. And we'll talk about how to fill in the gap between where you are now and where you're trying to go. I'm looking forward to hearing from you. Thank you for joining me. And I can't wait to see how your podcast impacts the world. Have a great day.